Hello, everybody. This is John Butero, and I want to welcome you to my channel. This is another one of those videos that wasn't really planned. It wasn't something I was intending to do this week, and it's going to a different direction than most of the videos that I've been doing. On today's video, I'm going to be taking on a subject that has to do probably a little bit more politics than it does religion, but it actually crosses into both. Because what I want to talk to you about is a guy that I came across on YouTube who has some videos out where he is attacking President Trump, plus he's also attacking evangelicals. And he's kind of doing both. He's attacking Trump because he doesn't like Trump, and he's attacking evangelicals because they, in large numbers, continue to support Donald Trump. So I want to address this a little bit. Anyway, I was watching the guy's videos, and he was explaining how terrible he thinks that Donald Trump is, and how that he cannot understand how come the evangelical community would continue to support him in spite of the fact that he thinks that Donald Trump is some kind of a terrible person, and how in the world does the Christian community continue to support the likes of such a man? The place where I was at has the name of Culture, Faith, and Politics. I think I spelled this guy's name right, but I'm not sure. It was a Pat Conkey or something like that. And it looks like he's got his own book even out that he wrote before the last election, or before the 2020 election, where he was attacking Donald Trump, and he was supposedly making predictions about things. And in this particular video that I came across, he was on there talking about 3 mistakes that he made concerning Donald Trump. The reason that I actually watched the video was I didn't know who he was, and I didn't know what he believed about Donald Trump. And I thought, well, 3 things that he didn't get right about Trump. And I thought, well, it might be an interesting video to watch and just see which side of the fence he comes down on. And it turns out that he is one of these people that, if you've ever heard the term Trump derangement syndrome, he's one of those people that to me fits into that category. He's somebody that, for whatever reason, has been made crazy by Donald Trump. I mean, everything about his views is hatred for Donald Trump, to the point where he even had to leave what he claimed he was part of, the evangelical community. So anyway, I want to talk to you about some things that were on his he was talking about. No, I'm just going to skim that a little bit, but I want to talk more about the comments section. Because, like so many others out there, if you make comments to him or back to other people that responded to him that were in agreement with him, and they don't like your comments, and I'm not talking about because you said something really out of the way. I mean, they just don't like your comments because maybe you made sense, or they just didn't like them, or whatever. They just delete them. And then it looks like their side got the last word in, and, you just didn't have any response for it. This is going on at his channel. Now, he says that he isn't deleting any comments. I don't know who has the authority to delete them other than him, but that's what he says. So I want to address some of the things that I said to him and some things that were said back and forth a little bit. And I want to address a few different key things, and even in one case, one of his supporters. During his video, he made a comment and I think I got this written down word for word. If it's off, it isn't off much, but this is what I got him as quoted saying during the video. He said, "My already low opinion of the evangelical community in America turned out to be not nearly low enough." So the reason I bring this up is, if you're part of the evangelical community, and specifically he was saying this in relation to any that dares to support Donald Trump after all of whatever the terrible things is he's supposed to have done. Now he mentions, or it's mentioned somewhere about these so-called felony charges against him. The felony charges, for the most part, are completely bogus. Many of the felony charges are nothing more than Donald Trump disputing the election results, and they're calling him like he's lying. He lied to somebody or other, and they're like, "This is a count of lying. This is a count of lying." It's just a bunch of bogus nonsense. So most of these charges that are against him are illegitimate anyway. But because we would still dare to support him in spite of all these felony charges and all these other things about Donald Trump, because of that, he thinks that his already low opinion of evangelical community in America turned out to not be nearly low enough. Well, I consider myself part of the evangelical community in America, and I do support Donald Trump. And I'm going to give you some reasons why I support Donald Trump. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you word for word exactly what I told this man as to my reasons for supporting Donald Trump. I'm going to leave a little bit out simply because of YouTube's some things they have on here concerning things you're allowed to say about the past election. Everything I said, I mean, to him was the truth, but there are certain things that we're not allowed to say on YouTube because they will call it misinformation. It's kind of the same way as it was with Donald Trump. You know, he gets all these phony charges against him for felony charges, but a lot of them are completely bogus. Well, the same thing goes on here. If I say certain things about the last election, then it can be called misinformation. So I'm going to leave out a little bit only for that reason, not because I don't believe everything I said, but I'm going to leave out a few comments, and I'm going to focus strictly on the thing that the main parts of it and what I believe it was, and I do know it actually was, that ticked him off against me. I must have hit a nerve in some of what I said back to him. But keep in mind what I'm responding to. I'm responding to his attack on the evangelical community, of which I'm part of, and maybe some of you that are watching this video are part of the evangelical community, and maybe many of you are actually going to support Donald Trump. But here's what I told him. I said, I'm an evangelical, and I'm going to try to explain my support for Trump. First of all, um, I have been a conservative Republican going back to Reagan and before I was a Christian. I have always been a nationalist and was a Pat Buchanan supporter in 1992 and 1996. I support Trump's agenda. He is the president whose actions led to Roe v. Wade being overturned when others just talked about it. I'm pro-life and will not support any candidate who is not if I have a pro-life option. I'm not interested in compromise when it comes to genocide against unborn babies. Trump is far from perfect, but he's the man we need to get things done. Samson was no example and far from perfect, but he destroyed God's enemies, and that is what I want from Trump. I want him to steamroll the liberals, progressives, socialists, and globalists. Even if I wasn't an evangelical, I would support Trump. And now I'm going to go down to the part that I believe it was that ticked him off toward me. I said, you don't want to be part of the evangelical community, question mark. Good riddance. Now, when I say good riddance, that seemed to have ticked him off, that I actually said that. Really, again, consider what it is I was responding to. The man again said, my already low opinion of the evangelical community in America turned out to be not nearly low enough. So if I say good riddance, it's basically the same as saying don't let the door hit you on the way out. I mean, as an evangelical Christian, what do I care? Why do I care if he decided to leave us? Why do we want people like that even in our ranks? So I stand by what I said, but apparently it struck a nerve with him. He didn't like that. I said, now, this is in response to something else he said in his video. Basically, after he started talking about the abortion issue, and he claims he used to be pro-life and a pro-life voter, and then he starts talking about how the Republican Party really didn't want Roe v. Wade overturned. They were really scared of it, but basically they were giving lip service to it, and that really it was safe for them to do that as long as Roe v. Wade stood, because it never really came down to lawmakers making decisions about the abortion issue. Well, that may actually have some truth to that. I wouldn't even doubt it. But the bottom line of it is, under Donald Trump's presidency, finally Roe v. Wade was overturned, and it should have been overturned. It was a bad decision. There's nothing in the U.S. Constitution that grants women a right to an abortion, whether you believe in it or not. And even the man who wrote the decision admitted that several times over when he was still alive, that it was a right they just thought women should have, so they just made it up, and they found a way to try to create this right in the Constitution. That needed to be overturned because it was an abuse of power by the Supreme Court. So anyway, he starts talking about the abortion issue, and he starts talking like the pro-choice liberals start talking about it, and you know, creating more of a culture of life and trying to show the value of unborn babies and all life and whatever. But basically, he's now he's changed over to where he's basically sold out all the unborn babies, and he's going to support Biden over Trump. I mean, that's how far he's gone on this thing. So anyway, this is what I said. I said anyone willing to sell out unborn babies to me isn't one of us anyway. This is bigger than Trump. It's about getting our agenda passed, and I'm supporting whoever I believe will do that. Well, anyway, the guy really is very unhappy with me now that I have said all of that, and he really becomes very hateful and attacking of me for my comments. And he then he starts talking about like how that Trump was not really a pure pro-life person. And this is an interesting tactic that he's trying to use to separate evangelicals from Donald Trump. So let me tell you what he says to me on that. So what are you going to do when Trump pushes for a compromise on abortion? Now keep in mind he didn't do that. Trump has not in any way pushed for a compromise on abortion that I am aware of. This is a hypothetical, but this is what he says. When he pushes for a compromise on abortion, which will put us pretty much where we've been all along in this country. That's all speculation. And no, it won't, because once Roe v. Wade was overturned, that meant that the states now have the right to decide the issue. So it will not put us back where we were before all this happened. So that's not true anyway. And what do you do with the fact that he says he is strongly in favor of in vitro fertilization? Well, clearly I don't support in vitro fertilization, but let me point something out to you, folks. He's supporting Joe Biden. What is Joe Biden's position on abortion compared to Donald Trump's? Let's say that Donald Trump is supporting in vitro fertilization, and we know that once that a number of fertilized eggs are destroyed through this process, which is why I don't support it. But at the same time, what is Trump's position versus Biden's? Biden's position on abortion is no restrictions all the way through the 9th month of pregnancy. So under Joe Biden's views, you could actually kill an unborn baby one day before it would have been born. Same thing with Kamala Harris, same thing with Hillary Clinton. And by the way, this same man knows that because of Donald Trump and his Supreme Court appointments, that Roe v. Wade was overturned. Yet he still turns around, supposedly as a pro-lifer in the past, who now says he wishes he'd voted for Hillary Clinton back then instead of a independent candidate because he saw how terrible Trump was. I don't know what Trump did that was so terrible as president. He claims that Trump was the most corrupt president in his lifetime, but what do you say about Bill Clinton and a lot of his shenanigans? It's ridiculous. And Donald Trump didn't really do anything that I can think of as president that was so terribly corrupt. I didn't see anything. They kept charging him with stuff, but they could never prove any of it. Most of the stuff that I've heard about Donald Trump had to do with stuff outside of his presidency. Bill Clinton did stuff while he was the president that was illegal, including committing perjury. And later on, he ended up losing his law license and was disbarred. And his wife helped cover up charges of abuse by women, one who claimed he raped her. And yet this man thinks it's okay to have supported Hillary Clinton, but yet he turns around and he attacks the evangelical community for supporting Donald Trump. It's absolutely absurd, and it makes me wonder again, is this guy even for real? You know, I mean, I have to wonder. Or is he one of those with Trump derangement syndrome that something about Donald Trump just makes him absolutely insane? He doesn't think straight anymore. He's abandoned the entire evangelical community because he knows better than we do. And he's going to support people that support the most wicked policies. And he talks like a Democrat now again. He talks like a liberal if you look at the way he says now on the abortion issue. He goes on and says after this about in vitro fertilization. First, he brings up a hypothetical that's not even true. When he asked, what are you going to do when Trump pushes for a compromise on abortion, which will put us pretty much where we've been all along in this country? Hadn't happened. So again, keep that in mind. So the only thing he's got is Trump supporting in vitro fertilization versus Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris all support abortion all the way through the 9th month of pregnancy. You could kill a baby one day before it would be born under their policies. And yet he's comparing that like it's equal. It's ridiculous. He's also forgetting the fact that that if Hillary Clinton had been president, she would have appointed left-wing judges, and you wouldn't even recognize America today if she'd been the president. And thinking about stopping abortion, it never ended in America if Hillary Clinton had been president. So, and this guy wishes she had been. And this guy supports Joe Biden. Something wrong with that. And Joe Biden, with all his corruption and the Hunter Biden scandal and all that stuff going on, like Joe didn't have anything to do with any of it. But yet, he's willing to do all of that, but yet he attacks the evangelical community because we dare to support Donald Trump, as at least the majority of us. And again, listen to what he said. My already low opinion of the evangelical community in America turned out to be not nearly low enough. Coming from a man who says he wishes he voted for Hillary Clinton and a man who says he will support Joe Biden because of Donald Trump, stop Donald Trump. Yeah. He says, by saying that, again about the in vitro and his hypothetical, by saying that, he undermines the entire pro-life position because he's either saying that human life does not begin at conception or that he's okay with setting an arbitrary cutoff time before which fetuses can be destroyed. That's the whole ballgame. He appointed this. Now listen to this. He appointed the same judges any Republican would have appointed, and now he's selling you out. He hadn't sold us out. It's hypothetical. It's a hypothetical thing. The in vitro thing isn't new, and the other is a hypothetical. He hasn't sold us out. And again, look at Donald Trump next to Joe Biden. And no, even if Donald Trump were to come out and say something about some compromise, we're not going to be back where we were before Roe v. Wade was overturned. Roe v. Wade let abortion be legal through the 9th month of pregnancy, and the states couldn't even stop it. Now, there's been a continuing situation back and forth where it's not been clear about late-term abortions being forced on every state back and forth. Sometimes we've had it where it was, sometimes we've had it where it wasn't, all the way up to the 9th month of pregnancy. But nevertheless, under Roe v. Wade, you pretty much could get an abortion all the way up through the 9th month of pregnancy. We're not going back to that again under Donald Trump. So all of that is bogus. Now, under Joe Biden, yeah, we might go back to that at some point or another. So none of this is true, and he hasn't sold us out. He says he used us. Donald Trump used us. I don't see how. When he was president, he pretty much did the stuff he said he was going to do. I wasn't even a Trump supporter in 2016 going into the election. I didn't trust him. I voted for Ted Cruz. And then when Trump got the nomination, it was him or Hillary, and I already knew where she stood on the issues. So my position was, well, I got to give Trump a chance because I hear what he's saying. He's saying the right things. It turned out when Trump became president, he literally pretty well kept his promises. He did what he said he was going to do, and he wasn't a closet liberal. It's as simple as that. He didn't sell me out. He did pretty much what he said he was going to do. He didn't use me. He says, the difference between you and me is I recognized a while back that I was being used, and I got off the train. He wasn't on the train. What train was he on? I never saw him being a Trump supporter. Was he on the? Is he claiming he was on the Trump train? He said he voted third party in 2016. He was never on the train. Not true. Again, that's not true what he's saying. He says, and I got accused of things like wanting a genocide against the unborn by thousands of people like you. I didn't say he wanted one. I said his position to support Joe Biden and his position he wishes he'd supported Hillary in the past actually helps continue the genocide against unborn babies. I didn't say whether he wanted a genocide against unborn babies. His what he's suggesting we do would keep it going. So anyway, that's what I'm saying about him, and it's the truth. He says, my guess is that you'll be a total hypocrite now and vote for Trump anyway, because it's not really about the babies. All the stuff he said about Trump was a hypothetical, except for that about in vitro fertilization. We already knew that. So again, what are we comparing this to? Trump supported in vitro fertilization versus Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, even Obama. They all support abortion all the way through the 9th month of pregnancy. I'm sorry, but I see a huge difference between these two positions. And even down to the fact, look, I'm against in vitro fertilization. I totally am, because you're fertilizing an egg, and I don't believe it's right to then destroy it. And I understand that happens, and I wish it would stop. But there is a huge difference between that and an abortion, where even in the first trimester, they literally are using a suction device to rip a baby apart. A living human baby is being ripped apart, arms and legs being ripped off of that baby, then something inserted inside the womb, and they crush the head of the baby and they pull it out, and then they have to reassemble it. It's a little body. There's a huge difference between what these people are doing and Donald Trump supporting in vitro fertilization. And even the sheer number of children that are being killed as a result of the policies of people like Joe Biden. We're talking about, before Roe versus Wade was overturned, there were like 1.3 million babies being slaughtered in America every year. Now, there's still way too many now, even though Roe v. Wade was overturned, because a lot of the states still keep abortion legal. And that there's nothing much we can do about that, because it really is a states' rights issue. There's nothing in the U.S. Constitution that says anything about the abortion issue, so therefore it's up to the states. I wish we could stop it entirely, but we can't. But 1.3 million babies were being slaughtered a year because of Roe v. Wade. And we're talking about that in comparison to fertilized eggs in vitro that are being destroyed. I don't support that at all, and I would outlaw it if I could. But again, look at what we're dealing with, the comparison. There is no comparison. And the other things he says, where Trump supposedly sold us out, he didn't sell us out. There has been no suggestion about a compromise or going back to the way it was. I haven't heard anything like that from Donald Trump. And I will cross that bridge when it comes to it. If Donald Trump starts coming out now as pro-choice, no, I will have to abandon him. But Donald Trump has not done that. There's been no change. This is all speculation. So that's just the way it is on that. And he goes on to say that my guess is that you'll be a total hypocrite now and vote for Trump anyway, because it's not really about the babies. After throwing phrases like genocide against unborn babies around, yes, I do call it that. 1.3 million a year being killed by abortion, that's a genocide. To justify your support for a thug who you actually support because he hates all the same people you do. Now, I don't know where he gets that. I said his policies. I said that I support Trump's policies. I do support Trump um, coming against and fighting against liberals, progressives, globalists, socialists. Of course I do, because I don't support their agenda. That's not what he's saying here, though. He's making a lot of leaps of assumption here. He says I support Trump because I'm supporting a thug who actually supports because he hates all the same people you do. I didn't say anything about hating anybody. He's making that completely up. He says it's got to be clarifying and freeing for you to finally admit that you'll vote for anyone who hates God's enemies as defined by you. Good riddance to your conscience. It was just slowing you down anyway. I appreciate your calm tone through the first half of the comment. The Taliban can be calm when they want to be. So now I'm being compared to the Taliban. Oh, wow. Again, Trump derangement syndrome. And that's basically what we're dealing with here. Now, I did answer him back. I said, I will vote. Now, again, remember, I'm comparing a man who supports in vitro fertilization versus a man who supports abortion all the way through the 9th month of pregnancy. A living baby that could live outside the womb one day before birth, in Biden, Harris, the Clintons, Obama, all these people's views, you should be able to kill them. As long as they haven't come out of the womb yet, you should just be able to kill them. A living baby that's completely viable. All these people believe that, and most Democrats in the Senate and in the Congress or the House, they all pretty much believe that. So just keep that in mind. So again, this is my reply to him. I said I will vote for the most pro-life candidate running. Trump has come out as pro-life and appointed originalist judges. Hillary and Biden are openly pro-choice and will appoint pro-abortion judges. That is a fact. Had Hillary won, we would be so far to the left, nobody would recognize America. I don't just say I care about unborn babies, I mean it. I'm not looking to compromise, and Trump is better for unborn babies than a man who wants no restrictions on abortions. As an evangelical, I am happy to be separated from people who support Biden and attack Trump. I don't particularly believe that I have said anything out of the way. I certainly was no more harsh toward him than he was towards the evangelical community. So keep all this in mind when he says this comment to me. Earlier, in another place, he said that he likes pushback. He enjoys it when people push back on him as well as write him and tell him that they support him. I pushed back on him, and I made a comment about how I did push back on him. I said, you said you like pushback, so here it is. He says, I like pushback, and also you're a very disturbed and hateful human being, and you should back away from the keyboard for a while. I responded to your abortion comment under the 3 Things video. I don't like it when people throw the word fascist around, but I will use it in your case. I appreciate you watching my videos, but it would be better if you just gave yourself about 3-month time out from screen time. I hear pickleball is fun. It's the new shuffleboard. Trump derangement syndrome. It really is a phenomenon. It doesn't make any sense because, again, here's my thing about Trump. Before the election, before 2016, I hardly ever paid any attention to Donald Trump. I didn't watch The Apprentice, didn't pay any attention to him. He was just a person that was a celebrity figure I heard about out, different times, and I didn't have any real opinion of him one way or the other. And it probably was a little more negative than favorable if it was anything. I actually was trying to stop Trump from getting the nomination, and I was trying to get people to vote for, either Kasich or Ted Cruz is who I voted for. But somebody to stop Donald Trump. And the reason I did was because I didn't trust him. I knew in the past he'd given to Democrats and he had done things that made me think he wasn't really one of us. I was wrong about him. When he actually became president, he governed as a conservative. So I know that Donald Trump uh, is not the way that they are making him out. And I also know that they tried to impeach him over a bunch of utter nonsense, charges they couldn't prove, charges that were utterly false. I know that most of these so-called felony charges he's been indicted on are absolutely ridiculous, and they should be laughed out out of court if it wasn't for the fact that everybody just seems to be out to get him. So anyway, I felt like I needed to respond to this guy. I probably could say more about him. He also, he's been somebody over there's been removing a lot of my comments back to people. I've been commenting on things that people have been saying, and then they've been removed. I had a guy over there who had also made some comments. I might get to it on another video. Maybe I'll do a video with multiple stuff in it or something else, and maybe I'll get to some of his comments. But he was literally coming out as pro-choice. He wasn't even claiming he was ever pro-life. And he was making excuses about taxpayers having to foot the bill for these babies, and that was unfair to them. So in other words, it's justifiable homicide to kill the unborn babies because it's not fair to the taxpayers to have to pay for it. And I said to him that I'm willing to pay more in taxes to save lives. That was removed. He came against me for supposedly hating immigrants. It's not true. I believe in the rule of law. And I am perfectly happy to have immigrants in this country. I don't have any issue with it as long as they're legal immigrants, but I do believe in border security. He also tried to make, comments to make out like that I was some kind of hater against LGBTQ, which I never even had even mentioned that. They're just bring up all this stuff because it's just liberal talking points. My position about them is first of all, I don't know why they want to be defined by their sexual preferences any more than I would as a heterosexual. I don't define who I am based on being heterosexual. But at the same time, um, you know, I have no issue per se like to want to persecute anybody. The only problems I've ever had with LGBTQ is when they're actually forcing Christians to violate their conscience by, like, say, making cakes for a gay wedding or doing photography for one. And I think that Christians should be able to not have to do that if it violates their conscience, just because, first of all, it's supposed to be a free country. And also, we're supposed to have freedom of religion. And if it violates their conscience, they shouldn't have to do it. So, from the way I look at it, It's not, if it's live and let live and they just simply don't want to be persecuted, fine. They're fellow Americans. I'm not looking to persecute LGBTQ, but I do have a problem with it when they're trying to sue Christians for refusing to do certain types of things that violate their conscience. That's my biggest problem with LGBTQ. I'll just leave it at that. I think that's enough said to answer it. But they removed those comments. I just simply gave my opinion, and somebody over there removed those comments. I'm not going to say who did it, but somebody removed those comments because they just wanted to silence their critics. Well, anyway, again, this is a little different video than I usually do. I haven't been doing political videos lately, but I did want to bring this one up, and I am defending the evangelical community against these unfounded attacks. And again, it comes down to, if anybody's got a problem mentally, they're unstable, it's the people that are attacking Trump for no good reason. And again, I think there is something to this Trump derangement syndrome. Well, have a good day, and Lord willing, I'll be back at some point with another video. Thanks for watching, and if you are interested, I welcome you to become a subscriber.